Welcome to Inventory Management, Chapter 11. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about inventory. We are going to be looking at how inventory is used in firms and understand what it costs to hold inventory or to use inventory. We will look at few inventory control systems and how different they are. We'll also analyze inventory using the Pareto principle. Inventory can be visualized as stacks of money sitting on forklifts, shelves, trucks, planes while they are in transit. Companies view inventory very seriously. This is the largest asset on the balance sheet for many companies. So inventory is the key thing that they would like to control. It is like this. You go and buy 4 gallons of milk for a couple of weeks. Couple of weeks pass and you have consumed only 1 gallon of milk. The remaining 3 gallons of milk is a waste. That's how inventory is. You have put money for 3 gallons of milk which you're not consuming. If you had used that money, which is about $10, and invested it, you could have made more money, maybe $11 or $12, depending upon your investment. That's how companies view inventory. They want to make sure that they have enough inventory and not too much inventory, not too little inventory. Just enough inventory for them to make products or assemble products or sell products. Because if you hold the inventory, it is difficult to convert back into cash. And even if you convert back into cash, you're going to lose some money because over a period of time, inventory costs will go down. If you're holding it, if you're getting fresh things from fresh supplies, that is different. But if suppose then it becomes a used inventory, so it is going to be less money, worth less money than what it was, what you bought for. So it is a good idea to try to get inventory down as far as possible. The average cost of inventory in the United States is about 30 to 35% of its value. So you can see why companies are really focused on controlling inventory. In a make to stock environment, which is like all the consumer products like watches, laptops, cups, lamps, pens, you made the material requirements planning in chapter 9. You use the material requirement planning to go and buy supplies. And that supplies is going to be put in a warehouse or a room where the supplies are going to be. So when you start assembling or producing or selling, you're going to be taking the supplies from that room and moving it to the shelf to sell, or moving it to the machines to produce, or moving it to the conveyor belt for assembling. So you can see that this warehouse inventory is where the supplies are, and you're going to be using that inventory. You're consuming that inventory. We are going to be looking at different models. We're going to be looking at single period models, fixed order quantity models, fixed time period models. These are the models we'll be looking at in this chapter. The single period model is used when you are making a one-time purchase of an item. That's a single period model. A fixed order quantity model is used when we want to maintain an item in stock. So let's look at Walmart for the time being. Walmart buys lots of diapers, let's say, for instance. They're going to keep, let's say, 100 packs of diapers in the storage room. They're going to move 20 of them on the shelf. This remaining 80 is in stock. They might want to keep a safety stock of 50. And remember, we talked about safety stock quite a while back in a couple of chapters before. That safety stock, let's say 50, as soon as I move 20 more, that becomes 80 minus 20 is 60. It's very close to the safety stock. So I'm going to reorder at that time. So we're going to be looking at the quantity that we are going to reorder and when we are going to reorder. These are the things that we'll be looking at, the quantity and reorder. So we're going to establish a policy. And that is the whole idea of these inventory models, is to establish a policy of when we are going to replenish and by how much. A fixed time period model is ordered at certain intervals of time. So this is more like a time period. This is more like a quantity period. Here we are ordering a quantity, some quantity. And it can be ordered today, tomorrow, 10 days from now, and next month, so on and so forth. But here we are going to order a particular quantity every week. Every Tuesday morning, we are going to be ordering 200, 300, 400, 500 quantities. So we know the quantity here, but we need to know we know the fixed time here. We know the quantity here. Okay? So those are the things that we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be looking at these three different models. So what is inventory? Inventory includes raw materials, finished goods, component parts, supplies, and work in process. Manufacturing inventory refers to items that contribute to or become part of a firm's product. So if you're using water and you're holding up in a tank to clean the pots, that is not inventory. If you got, let's say, a lot of rag cloths to clean the pots, that is not inventory. But if you're going to use a nut or a bolt, which is going to be in the product, that becomes inventory. Inventory system is a set of policies, and we control and monitor the levels of inventory. That is what we are going to look in this chapter. Classification wise, you have manufacturing, and you have distribution, and you have services. Manufacturing, you have inventory like raw materials. These are the supplies that you're going to get to make or assemble your parts. The finished parts, these are the products that you're completing so that you can sell it. The component parts, these are parts that are used in the finished products later on if something goes wrong. Say, for instance, you buy a car, that's a finished product. But you want to buy tires, that is a component part. You also buy supplies, various supplies, like gook, like rag materials, like the spanners and hammers and those kind of things, different tools, different dies, all these are supplies. And then you have work in progress or process. Work in progress or work in process basically means that you're taking supplies or raw materials and then using it while production, that is called work in progress or process. While it is in the process of either assembly or in production, that's called work in process. Distribution wise, you have inventory which is stored in the warehouse. It could be finished products, it could be raw materials, it could be supplies, it could be component parts. So these are stored in the warehouse. And also you have certain of these products or component parts being in transit. You're moving, let's say, parts from Japan to United States, China to Brazil, India to United Kingdom. These are all in transit. It might take by ship 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So this inventory is stored for 1 or 2 or 3 months while in transit. Or it might be taking, using the planes. We can airlift some of the products if it is smaller. And these smaller products can be airlifted in about 2 days from India to US. So these are in transit inventories that you need to consider as well. Services wise, you have tangible goods to be sold and supplies necessary to administer the service. Suppose I'm running an institution like Roosevelt University. There are tangible goods to be sold, which is basically the tuition and all that stuff. So I got people marketing the MBA program or the bachelor's program, and also all the student services and all the other services that are being given. But then there are also supplies. Like for instance, I have these pens and I have these markers and so on and so forth that are also part of the supplies. The electricity, the computers, all that stuff are supplies as well. The purposes of inventory is to maintain independence of operations, to meet variation in product demand. This is one of the main things of inventory, and this is where the problems are as well. The problems are this: the product demand, you know this from chapters 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We know that when you talk about demand, you're going to forecast this demand and it is going to be inaccurate. It's not going to be perfectly accurate at all times, for sure. So there is a variation in this demand. And because of that, this inventory levels are also going to vary. And that is where the problem is: how many you need to buy, how many you need to keep, how many you need to store. These are the questions that every inventory manager pulls his hair out. This is a big problem. And also, the demand is one thing. There is also flexibility in production and scheduling. So when companies want to be flexible in production scheduling, which is great for the customers, then that is also giving a problem for the inventory. That gives problems to the inventory. To also provide a safeguard for variation in raw material delivery time. So that is another factor. Let's say we are shipping some parts from Japan to US, and we have problems in the middle of the transit. Let's say there is a hurricane, so we have to divert the ship around. It's going to take another 5 days. So it goes to a port. There has to be some repairs to be made to the ship. That takes another month. So you can see now that the delivery time has to consider all these risks as well. And that is a real